Hello, everyone, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today, we're going to explore a gripping and emotional story about family, hidden danger, and the instinct to protect the ones we love the most. What begins as a simple hospital visit slowly reveals a darker tension beneath the surface, where trust is tested, and a child becomes the center of an unsettling obsession. As the story unfolds, you'll see how love, vigilance, and patience collide with quiet threats waiting for the right moment to strike. If you enjoy stories filled with suspense, emotion, and unexpected twists, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our upcoming videos. Today's story follows Huyen as she takes Dae to the hospital after noticing that he's been feeling unwell far too often. What starts as a simple medical visit soon turns into something far more unsettling. Because just when they believe everything is fine, an unexpected figure appears, bringing with him a danger they don't yet fully understand. Early that morning, the city was still wrapped in a thin layer of mist. The sky hadn't fully brightened, and the trees lining the road were damp with the lingering chill of dawn. Huyen walked briskly toward the hospital entrance, her hand tightly wrapped around Dae's. She could feel how thin his fingers had become, how slightly they trembled in her grasp. That small detail alone made her heart tighten. Lately, Dae had been getting sick more often than usual. Some days it was just a dry cough that refused to go away. Other days, a mild fever crept in at night, leaving him restless and weak by morning. And then there were the episodes of dizziness, those moments after meals when his face would pale and all he wanted to do was lie down and close his eyes. Each symptom on its own seemed harmless, but together they painted a picture that Huyen couldn't ignore. Night after night, she lay awake beside him, listening to his breathing, her mind racing with worries she tried not to voice. What if it wasn't just a cold? What if they'd missed the warning signs of something more serious? Dae kept insisting he was fine, brushing it off as overwork and bad weather. But Huyen couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. That's why, despite his protests, she made the decision to bring him to the hospital. The waiting area was crowded and noisy in that uniquely clinical way. Footsteps echoed across the tiled floor. A mechanical voice called out patient numbers over the loudspeaker. The sharp, sterile scent of disinfectant hung in the air, making the space feel tense and suffocating. Dae leaned back in his chair, his face pale, dark circles sitting heavily beneath his eyes. Huyen sat close to him, adjusting the scarf around his neck with careful, deliberate movements, as if even the smallest mistake might make him feel worse. She kept glancing at his face, searching for any sign of discomfort. "When we see the doctor," she said quietly, "you tell them everything. Don't leave anything out. Not to me, and not to the doctor." Dae gave her a faint smile and nodded. "I know," he said softly, though guilt tugged at him. He hated being the reason she worried like this. When their number was finally called, they stood and walked into the examination room together. Huyen followed closely behind him, never letting him out of her sight. The doctor asked detailed questions. When the fatigue started, how often the symptoms appeared, what Dae's daily routine looked like, and how regularly he ate and slept. Dae answered honestly. He talked about staying up late to work, rushing through meals, and getting caught in cold rain more times than he could count. The doctor listened carefully, jotting down notes and nodding occasionally as the picture became clearer. After checking Dae's blood pressure, listening to his heart and lungs, and ordering a few basic tests, the doctor finally leaned back in his chair. "It's a mild cold," the doctor said, "likely caused by physical exhaustion and recent changes in the weather. There's no need for hospitalization." The words felt like a weight lifting off Huyen's chest. For the first time in days, she let out a long breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Day only needed medication, proper rest, and better care of himself. She turned to him, relief mixed with a touch of reproach in her eyes. "See," she said softly, "you really need to take better care of yourself." Day smiled, squeezing her hand. "I promise," he said. "I'll listen. I won't make you worry like this again." The doctor gave a few more instructions. Eat properly, keep warm, avoid overworking, and then sent them on their way. As they stepped out into the hallway, both of them still processing the relief of the diagnosis, Huyen suddenly noticed a familiar figure standing near the end of the corridor. "Mr. Dai." He approached them with an easy smile, his voice warm and gentle. "I heard Day wasn't feeling well," he said, "so I stopped by to check on him. And it's been a while since I've seen Maya. I really miss that little girl." On the surface, his words sounded perfectly normal, kind even. But Huyen felt a subtle chill run through her. An unexplainable sense of unease settled in her chest. Day greeted him politely, exchanging a few brief words. Huyen simply nodded, her gaze fixed on Mr. Dai's face, searching for something she couldn't quite define behind that calm expression. As they walked down the hallway together, Mr. Dai kept asking about Day's health. Every so often, he mentioned Maya, his tone overflowing with affection, like nothing more than a doting grandfather longing to see his granddaughter. Huyen tightened her grip on her handbag, her instincts quietly urging her to stay alert. Nothing had happened yet, but that didn't mean nothing would. She gently tugged Day forward, subtly increasing their pace. All she wanted was to leave the hospital, to return to a place where her family felt safe and whole again. What she didn't know was that beneath Mr. Dai's polite smile and gentle words lay a darkness carefully hidden from view. His visit that day was no coincidence. It had nothing to do with concern for Day's health, and it wasn't driven by simple affection for Maya. Every step he took, every word he spoke, had been planned in advance. For a long time, he had been quietly watching Huyen and Day, studying how fiercely they protected Maya, how she had become the fragile center of their world. To them, Maya was everything. To Mr. Dai, she was something else entirely. As they moved through the corridor, his eyes subtly scanned the surroundings. He noted the placement of security cameras, the flow of nurses, the families passing by. In his mind, distances and timing began to take shape. He imagined moments, brief, fleeting moments, where Maya could be separated from Huyen long enough for his plan to unfold. In his twisted reasoning, he convinced himself that what he wanted wasn't wrong, that taking Maya away would be saving her, that raising her according to his own ideals was justified. But reality refused to cooperate. Huyen never loosened her hold on Maya. Even when her expression seemed calm, her eyes never stopped watching him. Day, though still weak, positioned himself instinctively between Mr. Dai and Maya whenever he could. Together, without a single word, they formed an invisible barrier. The hospital was crowded and unpredictable, far from the ideal place to act. For the first time in a long while, hesitation crept into Mr. Dai's thoughts. Any sudden move could draw attention. A child crying, a raised voice, a brief struggle. The consequences would be immediate and severe. With great effort, he forced himself to suppress the urge burning inside him. The plan would have to wait. Mr. Dai slowed his steps and carefully adjusted his expression. The tension in his eyes softened, replaced by the familiar look of a concerned elder who simply wished he could spend more time with his family. He let out a quiet sigh, as if disappointed by circumstances rather than restrained by intention. "I'll visit Maya another day," he said lightly, his voice calm and steady. "You two should focus on resting and taking care of your health." Every word was chosen with precision, kind, reasonable, and impossible to challenge. On the surface, there was nothing suspicious at all. Huyen responded politely, thanking him with a small smile. But her body remained tense, her posture firm, sending a silent message that she hadn't relaxed her guard for even a second. Without lingering, she guided Day and Maya toward the exit. Her steps were quick and purposeful, as if she could feel the weight of Mr. Dai's presence pressing against her back. Day followed closely, staying alert despite his lingering weakness. Neither of them looked back. Mr. Dai remained where he was, watching them walk away. His face was unreadable, frozen in a neutral expression until their figures disappeared into the crowd. Then, slowly, the warmth drained from his eyes. The overhead lights reflected coldly off his glasses as his jaw tightened. He hadn't acted that day, but the failure didn't weaken his resolve. If anything, it sharpened it. Resistance, to him, was not a warning to stop. It was a challenge. As he turned and left the hospital, his mind was already working, replaying every second of the encounter. He told himself that patience was essential. After all, no one could guard a child every moment of every day. There would be gaps, moments of exhaustion, moments of distraction, and when those moments came, he would be ready. Later that evening, Mr. Dai sat alone in a quiet room, the lights dim, the outside world reduced to faint shadows through the window. He leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes, letting the memories resurface in vivid detail. He remembered how Huyen's arms had tightened instinctively around Maya whenever he stepped closer, how her movements were subtle but deliberate, how Day, even while unwell, had shifted his body again and again to place himself between them. Those reactions confirmed everything he already believed. Maya was deeply loved, deeply protected, and instead of discouraging him, that knowledge only deepened his obsession. In his mind, he rewrote the story. One day, he told himself, Maya would live under his roof. She would grow up calling him the one who raised her, the one who truly understood what was best for her. The resistance of her parents was just a temporary obstacle, something that time and careful planning would eventually overcome. Meanwhile, completely unaware of how close they had come to real danger, Huyen and Day focused on returning to their daily routine. The doctor's reassurance echoed in their minds as they settled back into familiar patterns: medication on time, warmer clothes, earlier nights. Yet for Huyen, the sense of unease never fully disappeared. It followed her home from the hospital, lingering in the corners of her thoughts. She found herself watching Maya more closely than usual, holding her just a bit tighter, listening carefully to every sound in the house. That night, as Maya slept peacefully, Huyen sat by her side, listening to the soft rhythm of her breathing. She brushed a hand gently across her daughter's hair, her heart swelling with love and fear all at once. No matter what happens, she thought, I will never let anyone take you away from me. Day lay beside them, his arm resting protectively around both of them. Though he said nothing, his resolve mirrored Huyen's. Whatever threat might exist beyond their awareness, they would face it together. But danger doesn't always announce itself. Somewhere in the quiet darkness, Mr. Dai waited. He waited with patience, with calculation, and with a certainty that unsettled even himself. To him, this wasn't a matter of if, but when. He believed fate favored those who were willing to endure, to watch, and to strike at precisely the right moment. And as the night stretched on, one truth became clear. The story was far from over. This story follows Huyen
Trong câu
and
chuyện
Day
cảm động này,
during what
Huyền đoàn
seems
tụ
like a
với Đệ
simple
sau nhiều
hospital
tháng
visit,
xa cách. Mối dây
driven
liên
by
kết của họ
concern over
được
Day's
củng cố
declining
bởi
health.
sự vắng mặt và tình yêu
While
bền
the
vững.
doctor
Cùng
confirms
nhau,
it's
họ tập
only a
trung chăm sóc
mild
cô gái
illness,
Maya,
the
xây dựng
appearance
một
of
mái
Mr.
ấm
Dai
an toàn
changes
tràn đầy yêu
everything.
thương.
Beneath
Đồng
his
thời, hỗ
calm
trợ Tử
words
Vi,
and
một cô
caring
gái trẻ
smile
đang đối mặt với
lies
khó
a
khăn.
hidden obsession with
Những
Maya,
khoảnh khắc gia đình
the
chuẩn
child
bị bữa
Huyen
ăn,
and Day
dựng
protect
lên một cấu
with
trúc cho
unwavering
Maya
devotion.
và chia sẻ
In the
tiếng cười,
crowded hospital corridors,
phản
subtle
ánh tình
glances,
yêu sâu sắc
guarded
và sự
movements,
quan tâm lẫn
and
nhau trong gia đình.
unspoken tension
Tuy nhiên,
reveal that
sự bình
danger
yên
is
của họ
closer
gián
than
đoạn khi
anyone
những kẻ xâm nhập
realizes.
xuất hiện, tìm kiếm
Although
Tử
Mr.
Vi
Dai's
và làm
plan
nổi bật
fails
sự
for
mong
now,
manh
his
và những nguy
patience
hiểm
and
mà họ phải đối mặt.
determination remain intact.
Những căng thẳng và bất định,
Unaware of how
Huyền
close
và
they
Đệ
came
lên
to
kế hoạch cho
losing
một tương
everything,
lai an toàn hơn,
Huyen and
quyết
Day
định trở về
returned
miền
home,
Bắc để gần gũi hơn
holding
với gia
Maya
đình và
tighter
mang
than
lại
ever.
sự ổn định cho Maya.
Yet the threat
Qua những thử
hasn't
thách, mối đe
disappeared.
dọa và những
It's only waiting,
kết nối chân
because
thành,
sometimes
câu chuyện ca ngợi
the
sức mạnh
most
tình yêu,
dangerous
gia đình và
intentions
sự kiên
are the
cường trong công
ones
việc,
that know how to
tạo
wait for
dựng
the
hy vọng
perfect
và an toàn.
moment